Good evening, and welcome to our first ever virtual alumni reunion celebration. I am Patricia Curtin White, a graduate of the class of 1988 and fellowship class 2000, and I'm so proud to serve as your president of the Sidney Kimmel Medical College Alumni Association. I am also the parent of a fourth-year medical student at Jefferson, Mary Bridget Curtin White. On behalf of the Alumni Association, the Medical College, and Jefferson, thank you for joining us this evening. Though we know this is not how you pictured celebrating your reunion 6 months ago, and we would have very much have enjoyed celebrating with you in person, we hope that tonight's program helps to commemorate your milestone reunion and reconnect you with Jefferson and the exciting things happening in the medical college. We are so excited that we have almost 200 alumni from 32 states, coast to coast, and from 2 countries who are participating tonight. We are so grateful that you have joined us. We hope that all of your Zooms work. I'd like to give special recognition to our 50-year reunion class, the class of 1970. This milestone reunion is traditionally a very special event for you and usually very well attended. And so we know that you would love to be here, and we hope that you will enjoy tonight. Congratulations to the class and to all the classes. We are looking forward to welcoming all of our reunion classes back to campus next fall on October 15th and 16th to formally celebrate with your classmates when it is hopefully safer to do. So mark your calendars for October 15th and 16th, 2021. We'll be here before we know it. I also want to personally acknowledge and thank all of you for whatever you are doing during this COVID pandemic to make things better for patients, families, friends, students, residents, colleagues. So many look to us for comfort and hope during these challenging times. And as Jefferson alumni, we rise to that occasion as we do in all things. Now to begin this evening's celebration, I'm happy to share with you our inaugural parade of classes, starring photographs shared by members of our reunion classes. Please sit back and enjoy. What a wonderful celebration of the history and legacy of Jefferson. Thank you to all who contributed to the parade by submitting your photos. This was really wonderful. The parade will be available for you to view again later on our Reunion Hub, which we'll tell you more about later. One of my favorite parts of our Alumni Weekend celebrations, and one of the most fulfilling duties that we on the Alumni Association Board get to perform, is the recognition of our fellow Jefferson alumni for their outstanding achievements and contributions to medicine. Many thanks to Dr. Dean Kinsey, longtime chair of the Alumni Awards Committee, and the other members of the committee for their important work in selecting tonight's award recipients. This year's alumni recipients are extraordinary physicians who are sources of great pride for Jefferson and the Alumni Association. While we will formally honor them at next year's in-person celebration, we wanted to take some time tonight to announce and acknowledge our 2020 SKMC Alumni Association Award recipients, Dr. Rachna Trivedi Shroff and Dr. Ronald Wapner. Dr. Shroff is the inaugural recipient of the Alumni Association's Early Career Alumni Award, an award we founded earlier this year to honor alumni for their early career achievements, demonstrating their potential to be future leaders in their specialties. Dr. Shroff, would you please join me on screen? Great, welcome. We're so glad to see you. A member of the Jefferson class of 2004, Dr. Rachna Trivedi Shroff is an associate professor of medicine and chief of GI medical oncology at the University of Arizona Cancer Center, where she also serves as director of their clinical trials office and as vice chair of clinical research for the Department of Medicine. She was nominated for this honor by Dr. Tony Tsai from the class of 2005, who explains that nationally, Dr. Shroff has built a reputation as a renowned expert in pancreatic and biliary cancers. In just 16 years since graduation, she has established herself as a prolific clinical and translational researcher in GI medical oncology. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Rachna Trivedi Shroff, the inaugural recipient of the Early Career Alumni Award. Dr. Shroff, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Curtin White, as well as the entire Jefferson Alumni Association and the awards committee. And I, of course, want to thank Dr. Tony Tsai for this nomination. I'm so honored to receive the inaugural award for an early career recognition, though it's funny to me since I feel like I've been doing this longer than an early part of my career. But I do have to say that while I was a biochemistry major and knew that aberrant signaling pathways and the science of oncology was what was interesting to me. It was actually my time at Jefferson during a rotation on oncology service that led me to recognize that the humanity and art and empathy required in oncology is what really where my passion lied. And as a result, that's really was the starting point for working towards a career in oncology. And ironically, the patient I remember specifically taking care of had pancreatic cancer. So it was actually very full circle for me to develop a career in clinical and translational investigation to try to improve therapies for these diseases. And I really do think that my time at Jeff was part of that formative experience. And so I'm so honored and I'm humbled to be recognized. And I thank you so much for this.
Congratulations again, Dr. Schroff. We're so glad you're with us to celebrate this great award. Next, we have the Alumni Achievement Award, which was established in 1964 to recognize the outstanding and professional achievements of alumni. This year's Alumni Achievement Award is presented to an internationally known physician and researcher whose specialization in reproductive genetics has led to pioneering discoveries, Dr. Ronald Wapner. Dr. Wapner, would you join me on screen, please? Dr. Wapner received his medical degree at Jefferson in 1972 and went on to complete his residency and 2 fellowships at Jefferson. He also taught at Jefferson for 22 years as the director of maternal fetal medicine, and I do remember you. Dr. Wapner's work has led to the development of multiple prenatal diagnostic procedures currently used today, including chorionic villus sampling, CVS, multifetal reduction, chromosomal microarray, and fetal sequencing. He is a prolific author and has led or helped lead several studies sponsored by the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. As his nominator, Dr. Lorraine King from the residency class of 1975 and past Alumni Association president says that Dr. Wapner's contributions to the profession through his years of hard work and his lifelong dedication to improve pregnancy outcomes spans continents. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Ronald Wapner, this year's recipient of the Alumni Achievement Award. Dr. Wapner, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Dr. Curtin White, for your introduction. And I really would like to thank the Alumni Association for this honor. I am disappointed that I won't be there with you to see all my old friends and acquaintances, but certainly I've been guaranteed that we'll do this again next year, and I'll even get a little bit more to say. I would like to first thank Lorraine King for thinking so much of me to even think about honoring me. I don't know whether Lorraine knows it, but she was one of my early inspirations to go into academic medicine and to pursue research. Many of you may not remember, but Lorraine worked with one of the giants from Jefferson in reproductive endocrinology, Abe Rakoff. And he was not only a giant at Jefferson, he really was one of the people that started the field of reproductive endocrinology and infertility. We know where that went. You can't go around anywhere without seeing IVF and REI and all that. And both Lorraine and Abe were well before their time, before any of this, and really had a major contribution. I also would like to thank the Alumni Association. It seems very odd because I'm still a kid, but to receive such an honor. But I think that if one remembers when I arrived at Jefferson, I was a number of firsts. I was actually the first group of students to come from Delaware and to be started the Delaware program. And I understand that that has really blossomed. I was also the first, not just one of the first person to live in Orlowitz, which had just opened that year. And those of you who are in a class with a higher number or lower number than mine remember that next to Orlowitz, where now we have the library, was the warehouse for, I think it's Acme now, but it was Food Fair. So things were very, very different. But I was one of the class that between 68 and 72 that were there during the Vietnam War, were there from the transition, and were part of the hippie age, in which were a number of different things ongoing. One of which was long hair and somewhat unusual dress. So I just want to mention that there are probably faculty that still have some gray hair related to my class and to myself. But most importantly, those are the initial memories. But what I would really like to say is I don't think I could have gotten a better education than what I got at Jefferson. I've been many places, and I have seen many, many medical students from all sorts of institutions, and I have never seen any that have been better trained in clinical medicine and are better physicians than those that graduated as we did from Jefferson. That was the beginning. The other thing that Jefferson provided me with was an understanding of what's important. Um, Much of the research, as I think as Pat mentioned, that I have done have really been studies that have really asked the question, how can we improve the care of patients, and what indeed would be a better way to do something? And I absolutely learned that at Jefferson, because unquestionably the mission and the memory is, let's find out what's best for the patient and let's see how we can make it better. So for all of that help, all of that recognition, again, just thank you to all of the alumni. Thank you to the Alumni Association. And thank you to all the other alumni for being part of this relatively growing and large family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wapner. Thank you. I didn't realize you were from Delaware, as I was one of the Delaware students too. So we have that connection. So that's great. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Congratulations once again to Dr. Schroff and Dr. Wapner. We very much look forward to honoring you and presenting your awards at next year's Alumni Weekend celebration in person. Before we invite Dr. Tykocinski to join us, we wanted to share a special video with you, highlighting a day in the life of two Jefferson second-year medical students, Adam Schneider and Baylor Wicks. We have had the pleasure of working with Adam and Baylor over these last few months in their roles on Student Council and the Alumni Board Student Relations Committee, and have so appreciated their input and insight. So please sit back and enjoy.
Hello, alumni. My name is Adam Schneider. I'm a second year here at Jefferson, and I currently serve as the student chair for the Alumni Committee. First of all, we just want to say congratulations from all of us. We really wish that we could be there with you in person, but we'll get there soon. Take care now.
Hi, my name is Baylor Wicks. I'm a second year at Sidney Kimmel Medical College, class of 2023. I've actually been at Jefferson since 2016. I did my post-bac here, took a year off during the application, and then was lucky enough to be able to stay at Jeff for medical school. So I have long been part of the SKMC family. I'm going to take everyone through my day as a medical student in 2020, the year of the pandemic, and show you all what it's been like. Some things never change in med school, so first thing we're going to do today is hit the cafe, get a coffee.
So, with a coffee in hand, a day in the life of the student begins.
All right, coffee check. So I'm sure you guys remember it's important to try and stay active and healthy when you're in med school. So next up, we're gonna hit the gym. All right, now it's time to hit the books. Usually around this time, I'd go to the library, find a nice quiet spot on the silent floor, and just sit there all day. This is what I call the library nowadays, because school buildings have sort of limited access and we have to wear masks when we're there. I've had to make my own little library spot here at home.
So at Jefferson, we have something called case-based learning, where we have small groups and we work together on cases. I'm not sure if y'all had this back then, but here we are. Everyone say hello. And I can't read the board from back here.
This is my pandemic buddy, Groucho. He was in fact a panic purchase during quarantine, for those who are asking. But having a dog, I think, has made my life as a student a lot better, because it gives me a reason to take a break and go out and study and spend some time outside.
And unfortunately, during COVID, hangouts are a lot of the times over. What's up, guys?
So I'm sure everyone can see what I'm getting at. Med school looks a little different this year because life looks a little different this year. It's different than when you all attended SKMC, and it's a lot different than my first year of medical school as well. I will say that SKMC has done all that it can to make this a smooth and easy transition of virtual school. As much as I miss seeing my classmates and my faculty members, as most of our lectures are online now, I will say that I still feel very supported and very in touch with everybody in the school community. And I'm grateful to be a second year during this process and not a third year, as I know that their rotations have been drastically implicated by the COVID protocol. But we're all just doing our best, and we're all going to get through it.
That was wonderful. So I really enjoyed seeing that again. So that will be on the Reunion Hub. I'll mention that a little bit later. So thanks to Baylor and Adam for doing that. We really, the students are just wonderful, and why we're here really because of them. So we're so grateful they spent the time doing that. It is now my pleasure to introduce our Dean, Dr. Mark Tykocinski, to share an update on the medical college. Dr. Tykocinski is the Provost and Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs at Thomas Jefferson University and serves as the Anthony D. and Gertrude M. DePalma Dean of the Sidney Kimmel Medical College. Dr. Tykocinski, thank you for joining us this evening, and please take it away.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Trish. So it's really great to have all of you joining us here as we make our way through a world of Zoom. We're sort of counting on getting back to a more normal type of life, maybe late spring and into the summer. But we've done this transition heroically, and really a lot of great things going on. So let me. I wanted to spend the time with you talking about what's top of mind for us in the medical college, and the overarching theme right now is not even a pandemic will stop us. And I hope to convince you in the course of this half hour that there's just a lot of incredibly exciting things going on. And while we've adapted to the dictates of the pandemic, it certainly hasn't stopped us as we move forward. And you can see as part of the merger with Philadelphia University, we got a new logo that the J that has embedded within it TJU and P for Philadelphia on its side. And this was being installed on the top of what used to be Aramark Tower. So it's really visible from parts of 676 and as you enter the city. I'll talk about the new Jefferson, health meets design, and our growing regional and global reach. Say some things about the research enterprise and the programmatic science that's part of that. Share with you what our strategic academic framework is for the university, but then specifically what this means for the medical college. And then our viewpoint as to where we're headed for the 21st century position with our Jeff MD curriculum and some of our unique co-curricular programming. So I know that sounds like a lot, but we'll make our way through the presentation. Before starting, I want to show you a short video clip. The medical college doesn't feature in this, but I just want to give you a sense as now we are a broader university of the professions. This is what's going on and how we've translated some of the work that's going on, that we have design and architecture in our midst.
Remember how it felt when you didn't know the limits and anything seemed possible? At Jefferson, we push beyond limitation. We make the seemingly impossible possible. As students, we can design a collection that will change the course of fashion, or plan a city that can redesign itself and give light the power to transform. We can carry the weight of a 12-ton idea, 18 stories tall, propel athletes across the goal line on one leg and a custom traction cleat, and cross finish lines in a seamless second skin. We can turn style into something timeless and stand the test of trend. We can invent new forms of expression to move markets and merchandise and mindsets that shape the future of work. Remember how it felt when anything seemed possible?
So as you can see, this is a very different Jefferson that those of you were here saw at the time. And we're leveraging this new expertise that we have across the university in areas like fashion, where Jefferson, it's hard to believe, is ranked number 3 in the United States in fashion, in nationally ranked programs in design and architecture. And of course, Philadelphia University was founded in textile. And we're bringing together those students with our medical college students. So one of the programs that we launched a couple of years ago after I got here is Jeff Solves, meaning we identify clinical problems that to be solved, and then we bring teams of students together. And with the merger, that means Carrie Hess and Jonathan Karp of the medical college class of 22 joined up with industrial design students, Corey Jameson and Delara Kiana of industrial design. And out of that came one of the 12 or 15 startups from second-year medical students, this one, Respiro, when they identified as a problem the gas that leaks around the anesthesia mask. And could they do a simple solution to that mask to vent away those gases? In another similar project came a startup called Earpiece, where they leveraged the expertise of the textile students with the medical college students to do something very simple. How can you dampen sound for babies? And the solutions that were out there were really quite inadequate. Again, just 2 examples of the incredible creativity that's bubbling up through our medicine plus design track, coordinated by one of our emergency medicine faculty, Dr. Bon Ku. And here are just some more examples. In this case, leveraging the expertise that we now have at the university in architecture as well as design. We brought together at the time when COVID came out, we started to identify problems to be solved in that area. One, of course, is you have a COVID patient in a room and everybody's coming in with these foreboding masks. It's very isolating to patients. So we launched a project called, and here everything's Jeff something. So this one is Jeff Screen. Could we create a virus-resistant barrier that we could hang as a sort of curtain to screen off the patient and yet see through, so that family and caregivers, where you don't have to come in direct contact with the patient, would be able to come in and not have a mask? And so that meant rethinking the patient room. That brought together expertise from the medical college in behavioral health and infectious diseases, with our design engineering commerce college and the textile engineering and industrial design, as well as CABE, which is our architecture and built environment college, in interior design and lighting tech. On the right, you can see this incredible collaboration going on around autism. It turns out that you can start thinking about redesigning spaces for the neurodiverse. They have Some of them have enhanced sensitivity. So can you change textiles? Can you change rooms, et cetera? So this has brought together interior design from the architecture college together with the textiles group and the medical college in a center for autism and neurodiversity. Again, many other examples there, but this is the kind of energy that's bubbling up around us. While we've been in this pandemic, we haven't shut our doors. It just means, like this alumni reunion, things just are done remotely. And one of the priorities for us these days is the issue of diversity, health diversity. And so by chance, just in the last month, we had 3 major national and international symposia that touch on the area of diversity hosted by Jefferson. In the upper left, that leverages the neurodiversity program I just mentioned in conjunction with architecture. So this symposium, attended by over 900 people from around the world, was building community and rethinking the built environment. One of the things that I'm most proud of having founded after I got here 12 years ago, was the Computational Medicine Center. We're one of the strongest programs in the country in that field now. We hosted a symposium. It was several years in the making, that you see in the bottom left, the big in big data. And this one too presented some of our breakthrough discoveries in small RNA discovery, at the same time coming up with new work that ties into disease disparities. And then in the center, the American Medical Women's Association hosted their national meeting this year at Jefferson, this time, of course, virtual, entitled Sex and Gender Health Education Summit. It was a considerable success and brought great light to Jefferson. And then, of course, we have all kinds of programming, which I won't be able to get into in any depth here, around how Jefferson engages the work. And right there, you see the cover of one of the brochures that we've done recently. During this pandemic, life goes on. We have special events around Bike for Cure. I'll talk a little bit about our Medicine Plus co-curricular programming. This year, we've just launched Medicine Plus Music. So you see 2 of our students in Gibbon Atrium entertaining patients and visitors. We've had major symposium. Our research has gone on. So you see our big postdoctoral research symposium. And then we've brought together all kinds of collaborative work and new programming, making the invisible visible as part of a very exciting partnership between those studying mitochondrial pathogenesis here, the Eye Institute, and others. I promise not to show you too many tables with numbers, but I'm quite proud of this. We talk and we always take great pride, of course, in the clinical education second to none. And I thank and I really appreciated the words of Dr. Wapner. And by the way, congratulations to you and Dr. Schroff on this such well-deserved recognition. But so we know for clinical education, but I don't want us to forget our incredible strengths in research. And we've been on a decade-plus long journeys to start to build team programmatic science. When I got here, there was relatively little NIH funding around that. And as you can see here on the far right, the number of programmatic grants, and this just shows us from 2017, has continued its ascent. And our total funding has now, if you add directs and indirect expenditures, we're now over $150 million, a more than doubling of our research portfolio over the last 8 years or so. You can see on the bottom right a brochure we have. This is available online. It's a first ever for us to do a glitzy, high polish research publication, and we'll be producing these now on a regular basis. Again, you can access that online, and if you'd like a hard copy, just let us know. Reach out, and we'll be glad to send that to you. I talk about programmatic science, and I just want to briefly showcase 3 examples. And again, this is just 3 out of literally countless dozens. We at Jefferson have a horse in the COVID-19 race. And I don't want to sound overly confident here because we've gotten virtually no attention out there. But as we know, the race is not who starts and visibly, but it's who's there at the finish line. And this is incredible work going on under the lab and leadership of Dr. Matthias Schnell, who's our chair of microbiology and immunology. He also is the founding director of the Jefferson Vaccine Center, and really a recognized true leader and pioneer in the field of using viral vector vaccines, the original rabies virus vaccines, and using rabies virus as a vector to express other things. So when we got the sequence of SARS-CoV-2 from COVID-19, he immediately proceeded in January to express on the rabies virus an extra protein. You see there on the bottom, in the middle, those little red triangles, that represents the neo-expressed COVID-19 antigen. And then when that's injected as a vaccine, not only do you develop antibodies to rabies virus, which can never hurt, but since this vaccine is a proven entity, we know it'll be effective, and it stimulates antibodies at high levels to SARS-CoV-2. And so it's long-term protection, it's established, likely to be safe. It's been given to hundreds of millions of people, the rabies virus vaccine, and we have no reason to think that piggybacking the COVID-19 single S1 spike protein will make a difference. And that means it's safe for pregnant women and children. It's easy to reconstitute everywhere, unlike the RNA vaccines, for example, that require freezers. There's a manufacturing infrastructure around the world, over 20 manufacturing plants. And we've already licensed it to an Indian company for the developing world, Bharat Biotech, and they've already proceeded to scale up millions of doses even before it's gone into humans. And I can tell you that the data, the animal data, is astounding. Probably the best model for SARS-CoV-2 is the hamster model. And this vaccine does what no other vaccine has been reported to do. And this is just one of a piece of a lot of data. In this experiment, after 2 months after immunization with what we call Coravax, which is the Jefferson vaccine, if you then challenge and instill live virus into the animal's airways, nose and airways, and then 3 days after that, see if that virus has been taken up and can be recovered. You can see on the right, you cannot find virus in the Coravax immunized animals, whereas there's plenty of it in an irrelevant rabies virus vector infused animals. So that's an example of what we mean by programmatic science. Another exciting example comes from the lab of our chair of pharmacology, Scott Waldman, who is on track to really develop a revolutionary immunotherapy for GI cancers, starting with colorectal cancers. He defined this molecule called GCC that is expressed on the surface of the luminal surface of your gut, and it is highly expressed in cancers. And so he has targeted a number of the immune steps in the pathway and is developing antibody drug conjugates that target the GCC, vaccines that use GCC as an immunogen, and then CAR T cells for adoptive T cell therapy. And the data that he has generated is simply astounding, to tell you the truth. And we have really, really excited about the promise of this, what a really tumor-specific cancer immunotherapy as it will evolve. And then the third of the three examples, just with one slide, is the small RNA discovery. I mentioned the Computational Medicine Center under the leadership of Dr. Isidore Ragoutsos. We were fortunate to recruit him here. He was the co-founder of the computational biology group at IBM. And we have two other labs now, Yohai Carino and Eric London, that are really doing groundbreaking work in totally expanding the world of small RNAs. And they're doing it by discovering these things computationally, showing they actually exist, and then showing that a number of them can serve as incredible cancer markers and detection targets in a variety of disease settings. So this work really upends a lot of what we conventionally think about genomics, and shows that the RNA world is far more diverse and richer than anyone suspected. So where does that leave us here at Thomas Jefferson University? We're really just continuously reinventing ourselves. We were founded as the nation's 5th medical college almost 200 years ago. We became a university in 1969. And about 40 months ago, we did this wild and crazy merger with a university known for design and architecture, known at the time most recently as Philadelphia University. And over time, we've evolved from a health sciences university to an academic-based regional health system. You know that we, in a sense, can be thought of as a collection of marquee brands, some where we own the financial piece, others which are independent entities, like the Rothman Institute for Orthopedics, Wills Eye. And that collection continues to expand and grow. And the growth of the clinical enterprise really has been pretty astounding over the last few years. As we've gone through a series of merger with Abington Health, the old ARIA Health System. I've mentioned the merger, the academic merger with Philadelphia University, the merger with Kennedy Health, giving us reach into New Jersey, and with the McGee Rehabilitation Hospital. And we now have the largest clinical footprint in this region, larger than Penn, I would point out. When we think about how we're going to move both the medical college along with the larger university forward, it's really guided by a strategic academic framework that we put together a couple of years back. And just as a sampling of things, that framework talks about fields of tomorrow. It talks about curated personalized education, community of scholars, and an outward-looking enterprise. And let me just give you a few highlights here. Fields of tomorrow. If you look at the pharma industry, what COVID has proved is that there is an insatiable appetite for biologics, whether they be monoclonal antibodies to be produced, vaccines, and all sorts of other things. And the bottleneck for the world right now is the lack of people trained in bioprocessing to actually do the production. And even before COVID, we started something called the Jefferson Institute for Bioprocessing a year ago, and we couldn't have been more timely. And because we are now going to be the center for training people in the pharma and large biotech industry in the areas of protein, cell, and gene therapeutics. And we will be a known entity. The name Jefferson will be on the tips of a lot of tongues at a lot of that pharma biotech world. Just an example of how we think about where fields are going, anticipate it, and create training across the university. And for the medical college, by the way, that's a huge resource because many of our students who will have research experiences and the labs will be able to tap into this considerable expertise that we're producing around what we call JIB. I've already mentioned, if you look in sort of the upper panel in the middle, programmatic research themes, and gave you examples of the vaccine work, the small RNA work, the Jeff screen, but there's a whole set of other programmatic themes where we will be distinctive, top 5 in the country in those focused areas of research as we move forward. I do want to point out one other thing off of this slide, and you see that Jefferson Institute for Advanced Study. As part of the Kimmel gift in the renaming of the medical college, those dollars, among other things, have allowed us to considerably expand endowed professorships, but also to create a visiting scholars program. And we had our first visiting scholar to the medical college who spent 2 months here, who is the leading figure in all of Italy's, basically headed up at Italy's equivalent to the NIH, and now for the European Union is probably the leading figure in there. Spent 2 months here on our campus. Ditto for some of the others who will be coming and joining us this coming spring. So a lot of vibrancy for the medical college, a lot of great things that are going on. And over on the right, you see that Jefferson Pathways assured admission linkages. I did mention medicine plus design. Well, we started an assured admission linkage with Princeton University that has no medical school of its own, as you know, but they've got a pretty good university going there. And so we are assuring admission to a select number of second year undergraduates at Princeton if they commit to Jefferson and commit to getting involved with projects in our medicine plus design pathway. This year alone, 12 students from Princeton applied to that program. So while a number of people raised questions of whether we would get second year Princeton students to commit, the answer is clear. And we've now gone much further than Princeton, and I'll touch on that. So we are growing our reach. We sit here in Washington Square West for the Medical College in Center City. We now have a significant campus with over 50 buildings in East Falls, where the undergraduate is and the design and architecture, et cetera, are. That JIB that I mentioned, the bioprocessing, is in a facility in Springhouse. And in other colleges within the university, like nursing and health professions, we've created new campuses. Of course, our main clinical affiliates remain strong. Since many of you were here, we've added Atlantic Health. But these 5 institutions are at the cornerstone of the training of our students. And we are looking forward to additional major building projects. And the one that will be transformational for Center City is shown on the bottom right here, with a $70 million additional gift from the Kimmels. We will be building a major new research building, and you can see it's going to be a signature building, the Caroline Kimmel Research Building. That reach is not, the growth is not just on the campus and regionally, but it's also globally. And we've chosen to focus on a handful of countries where we go deep. And there is just an incredible work, which I'll be showcasing from time to time. I have, but I will do more in the alumni bulletin, in countries, starting with Japan, the Jefferson Israel Center, India, Italy, and the All Ireland Center. And really deep programming where literally it's of the magnitude that senators and leaders in those countries, including huge countries like India, know the Jefferson name. And we also are focusing on a number of countries in both Africa and Latin America through very focused but impactful research programs. So back in 1824, McClelland founded us, and we did a lot. And over those years, we have been at the forefront of a lot of things. The Center for Research and Medical Education, we have the longest longitudinal assessment of medical education outcomes. My predecessors founded the Physician Shortage Area Program, the Penn State Program, and interprofessional education. But we haven't sat still in the last 10 years. We established the nation's first Department of Integrative Medicine and Nutritional Sciences. We've started another kind of curriculum besides our main JeffMD curriculum called the Longitudinally Integrated Curriculum at our newest branch campus up in North Jersey, Atlantic Health. We have created pathways for students to get 2 MD degrees, one from our partner in Italy, Cattolica, as well as from Jefferson. And we have our Medicine Plus programming in co-curriculum. So where are we headed to in the medical college and the education? So there's a lot of clinical disruption going on and much more in the offing. Clinical innovation in diagnostics, therapeutics, care delivery. Starting to talk about well-being much more than disease, non-physician providers, machine intelligence, and robotics. And our general sense is instead of pushing back at these, don't resist these disruptors, it's futile. Instead, quite the opposite. We should embrace them to advance the human agenda, enrich physicians' roles, and really make sure that all providers, both non-physician and physician providers, are working at their full degree potential. And we believe this is an incredibly compelling and optimistic future for the physician of the 21st century. And so We talk about drawing on the best of Flexner and Osler, right? Flexner was the science of medicine, Osler emblematic of the art of medicine, and transcend their dialectic, providing creative and flexible training for a much broader set of career pathways. In 2050, 2060, 2070, graduates of our medical colleges will be doing lots of other things in addition to the specialties that they train in medicine. They will be playing a much more diverse set of roles in society, and we need to prepare them for that. And also the expectation of lifelong learning across a continuum of medical education. And one of the things that I'd like to talk about, I'm still working on a book that I'm hoping to get done over the next year and a half, of the physician of the future. And I like to talk about the 4C physician. These are things that will not be taken over in a complete way, at least by machines. The physician as consultant, as comforter, as coordinator, as creator. To get to that, we have to think of not just competencies, which is what we think about through the accreditation bodies, through LCME and AAMC, but increasingly we have to think about human qualities and ways of thinking. And just a sampling by competencies, it's an expanded set of competencies, not just basic clinical health services and applied sciences, but psychosocial sciences, multicultural studies, data sciences, logic and communication. You can see there the human qualities that you were nurtured in when you were here, but we have to take it and add that leadership component to take it to a next level. And ways of thinking, something that the new curriculum that we launched, JeffMD, pays particular attention to in cultivating aspects of synthetic intelligence, analytic intelligence. And of course, if you haven't got the message already, I really hope you did. It's the cross-disciplinary and really disciplines not just within medicine, but outside of medicine, and the examples that I've given you. And so to get there, we talk about 3 curricular dimensions. Yes, there's curriculum, but there's also co-curriculum and extracurriculum. And on curriculum, we now have the the 4th year students here are the first who are going into our phase 3, the last year of the new JeffMD curriculum. And I'm not going to belabor this, but only to say we really have created a compelling curriculum. And I really want to do a shout out to Steve Herron and Deb Ziering and a cast of many dozens of faculty who've done just a great job. In that video, you heard one of our students talk about case-based learning. We have reduced by over 50% the number of lecture format and really have built up small group pedagogy in a very significant way. We've elevated health system science, evidence-based medicine, humanities, professionalism, wellness as thematic threads. And we started the first, I believe ever, a scholarly requirement in terms of scholarly inquiry. Beyond that, this curriculum truly integrates basic and clinical science. It exposes students to real clinical exposure early on, and it provides an opportunity for development of specialty interests, including tracking, at a much earlier phase of their education. And then we're doing a lot of sort of neat stuff, if you will. We are creating digital apps that track competencies, their interprofessional experiences, their satisfaction, and these are being requested by medical schools around the country. So really seen as a leader in how we do track things and also how we do evaluate both with competency-based assessment tools and a variety of others. The curriculum, the 3 phases of the curriculum are shown here. That first phase of basic sciences generally has been reduced in length, and it's no longer pure basic science. Our phase 2 is sort of the typical, what used to be the year 3, and we've completely overhauled phase 3. So the last year of med school is no longer just sort of a auditioning rotation kind of thing. And it's all got these threads that go through the curriculum. I mentioned co-curriculum, and it's under a banner that I call Medicine Plus. So I told you about Medicine Plus Design, where students will do design projects while they're here. But we also have Medicine Plus Humanities tracking, Medicine Plus Data Sciences, Medicine Plus Policy. And each one is there for a reason. It's meant to cultivate a certain kind of thinking, design thinking, for humanities, reflective thinking, computational thinking, for policy relational thinking. And we're doing assured mission linkages beyond Princeton. So our namesake, Washington and Jefferson in Western Pennsylvania, I'm proud to say I got an honorary degree from them, which really meant a lot because of the historic nature of that. The old Jefferson College had merged with Washington College back a century and a half ago, and they are alive and well. And we've now done assured admission linkages with Rochester, Swarthmore, Haverford, and Yale in a very targeted way around this curriculum. So while we still have 35 to 40 applications per slot in the med school, we have no reason to do assured admission for that reason. We can fill our classes with great students, but we want to fill them also with students who are trained in cross-cutting ways of thinking to create students who really will function in very exciting ways as the 21st century unfolds. And then lastly, it's not just co-curriculum, but it's extracurriculum. And this is a legacy that I don't take credit for. I have added to this list, but my predecessors and many of these things were there when many of the alumni here were here, is the incredible reaching out into our surrounding communities that exist and all the co-curricular programming. And frankly, when people, and I'm out in meetings and out of town, and people say, what are you most proud of Jefferson? I say, without doubt, it's the community engagement. Our brochures are probably not the most compelling compared to others, but if anybody asks which medical college of the 145 allopathic med schools in the country has the most real programming, student-driven, I challenge you to find a place that has a more compelling group of offerings than we have. So I'd like to end with something that's a little offbeat for a medical college reunion, but I think you'll get the sense of what I'm trying to get at. I've talked about how we're leveraging the newfound skill sets and knowledge domains through the merger with Philadelphia University from 2017. And I want to show you an example. And I also told you that one of our global centers is Israel. We have this Jefferson Israel Center, and the largest medical center in Israel is the Sheba Medical Center. And they are now planning a really extensive city to surround their medical center out west of the city of Tel Aviv. And our architecture students took on themselves a semester-long project. Because of the pandemic, they couldn't even go to see it in person, and essentially did what amounts to millions of dollars of architectural work in planning a Sheba city of health adjacent to their medical center. They also consulted extensively with some of our medical experts at Jefferson Health, et cetera. And I just want you to keep in mind the 4-minute video that I'm about to show you was produced by students, and the work product is entirely by students with a fantastic, faculty guides. It was not just in architecture, but industrial design played a role with this. And I just want to give you a sense of the caliber of student and their creativity that we have, and the kinds of things that are happening as we bring together our thinking about health, life, and using human design thinking around that. So if I told you what the reaction was of the CEO of Sheba Medical Center when he saw this for the first time, they will. It was just absolutely. He was astounded, and could not have been more complimentary in terms of what we were able to produce for him, and that's what I mean when. The Jefferson name will be known. I mean, Jefferson is now a known quantity in that country. And I can say the same thing in India for the incredible work that Richard Derman has been orchestrating on Jefferson's behalf for global women and children's health. work with funded by World Health Organization, the Gates Foundation, et cetera, and down the load. So one of the things that we really are starting to get is a much broader band of recognition across the world. So I hope that gives you a sense of the dynamism that's going here. With regard to COVID, I can tell you we do not have a documented case of classroom or clinical area transmission among students or student to faculty during this entire period. Incredible work being done to ensure the safety of students and faculty. Our health system and Jefferson Health has had an extraordinarily safe record for employees. And we are one of the major caregivers, if you list them from around the country, in the top 20 in having cared for COVID patients. And we're very proud of what we've done along those lines. So I'm going to stop there. And I think that leaves us with about 5 or 10 minutes to answer a couple of questions. So Roberta, are you going to be culling those questions?
Yes. So thank you so much, Dr. Tykocinski. That was a really great presentation, and it was so nice to get a snapshot of what Jefferson's doing. So again, as a reminder, you can submit your questions using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you don't see that, you can move your cursor and it should appear. So to get us started, our first question of the evening, some of our alumni want to hear a little bit more about the student experience. And one is actually curious about what the annual cost of medical school is today and what percentage of our students are receiving scholarship or financial aid.
Yeah, so good question. We're somewhere around, and I guess I should know the exact number, but we're about $52,000 to $54,000 a year in terms of our tuition. The vast majority of our students are receiving some kind of aid of one sort or the other, and we know this is sort of a really hot button sensitive issue out there. One of the challenges, frankly, for our medical college has been the scholarships. At least when I got here 12 years ago, that were available for students were really pretty restricted. And so when LCME came with their accreditations, one of our weaknesses was our tuition discount rate was just not high enough. In other words, the available scholarships weren't there. We've been on a great, journey now in building up that scholarship pool. So we haven't gotten to where we absolutely want to get, but we're, I think, headed in a reasonable direction. And we brought on into the Office of Institutional Advancement under the leadership of Elizabeth Dale, who has done just an absolutely spectacular job in starting to build up the student scholarships, the endowed professorships, and that really is making a difference. One of the areas I can add is we are, intent on further diversifying our class, having more Black medical students. And so over the last year, we rolled out 11 additional full scholarships that were specifically geared towards that diversification goal. And we had what was for us a record number. It's not where we would like to be, of course. We'd like to have more, but 15 African-American students joined us this year. And I think we're on a trajectory. We've got the Reimagine Philanthropic campaign under OIA and Elizabeth Dale's leadership. And certainly more scholarship dollars is going to be pivotal for where we want to go with all of that.
Moving forward. That's great. Thank you so much for that. Our next question, again, on the same topic relating back to the students. We saw in the video the day in the life of a second-year student, but how has COVID impacted all 4 years of students?
Sure. So I think you got a little bit of a feel for the day in the life of the students before they get into their clinical years. I would point out that the fact that we had already under Jeff MD moved to more small format classes, the case-based learning, worked to our advantage because obviously it's a lot easier to de-densify, if you will, students into small room formats. And frankly, moving forward, it's not clear that we'll ever have that many more large lectures packed into a single room, because Zoom does just fine for that format in most instances. And really, it's going to be more and more small group. In terms of students in the clinical areas, we were one of the first medical colleges in the country, certainly in this region, to take our students out of clinical rotations back in March. We didn't know where things were going. We weren't sure we could do it safely. There was face mask, PPE limitations at the time. And so we shifted to online, and we became a leader, frankly. Our modules are being distributed through AAMC in taking certain kinds of clinical rotations and turning them into remote experiences. That said, we were then among the first to bring students back into the clinical areas in May. And so that for the students that are back, our COVID volumes never reached the high levels that warranted dialing down all of our clinical activities. And certainly now, at the current case rate, a lot of things are sort of close to normal, obviously with far, far more safety precautions. But the clinical areas move forward. Obviously, our reliance on, we run large classes, which means we use our clinical affiliate partners. They had different policies. So ramping back up the clinical in part required considerable coordination with our key clinical affiliates that are not part of the immediate Jefferson umbrella. I think for the fourth year students, there is a bit of a challenge now, because they're going to go through the match and finding residencies, and for us bringing residents in, where so much of it is virtual. So a lot of energy has been spent on trying to figure out how that will work and making sure the students aren't disadvantaged and we do right by those students. Our matches, our students over these last years have done extraordinarily well. That is not hyperbole. Really extraordinarily well in the match, and we fully intend for that continue. So the one thing that has been affected is our students aren't traveling abroad. So for the fourth year students, many of them would go to Rwanda, to African experiences and other places. So clearly, audition electives, things like that, are radically affected amidst all of this. But as they say, it is what it is.
Thank you. Yes, safety is most important for our students, right? So kind of our last question, we only have a couple minutes left. One alumnus wants to know how alumni can help support students. We talked a little bit about, scholarship and giving the financial side, but what other types of support can our alumni provide?
Well, I think that's a wonderful question. So whoever you are, alumnus, thank you for looking to help. The connection between alumni and students can be incredibly powerful and meaningful. Okay, obviously there's the philanthropic side, but even if you set the philanthropic side aside, for instance, when you're, especially when you're outside of the tri-state area, when our students are going for interviews, it's a bit different this year, as I've said, but in general, for our students to be able to engage with local alumni, whether it be in California or Florida or Ohio, you name the location, and connecting with our students really can make a huge difference. It's sort of like having family everywhere in the country. So that's an example of that kind of connection. With alumni that have specific interests, if any of you out there, for instance, have interested in the nexus of medicine plus design or want to get engaged in that, there are all sorts of opportunities in those sorts of areas. But really finding ways to connect to our students. And by the way, it doesn't require the student going there. Even a Zoom, we've learned I call it the Zoom tomb. I'm not particularly enamored by Zoom, but this is my life. Welcome to my life lately, and all of ours. There are things that do go well with Zoom, and being able for an alumnus to connect with a student who comes from your region, for example, can be a very effective way and incredibly useful for some of our students.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tykocinski. So that's all the time we have for the questions this evening. If we didn't get to your question, I will make note of it and make sure that we get them to Dr. Tykocinski so he can address them at our annual business meeting that the Alumni Association has coming up on November 12th. So make sure you tune in for that. And now that concludes the Q&A portion.
Terrific. I'll turn it back over here.
Thank you, Dr. Tykocinski and Roberta Watson from our alumni relations team. That was wonderful. I didn't want the questions to end, but we do want to get to a couple of other items. Thank you. And to answer those questions, you will be hearing from us in the alumni office about ways to help with our students. So we're glad that question came up, and we have lots of ideas for all years, first through fourth year. So this is where we can really make a difference with our students, and they need us, and we need them. They'll be taking care of us in years to come, and we want to make sure that they get matched in a good spot for the fourth years, and we know they're getting great training at Jefferson. So with that, we're going to go to the next part of our program. No reunion celebration would be complete without remembering the classmates who are no longer with us. These are dear friends, teachers, and colleagues who helped shape our medical school experience and have left us since graduation. Please join me in a moment of silence as we share our necrology. Thank you. We will remember our colleagues and their families. We would like now to invite all of our attendees to join us in reciting the Hippocratic Oath. Okay. We will be unmuting everybody. I think we've already started that. We will be reciting the Hippocratic Oath. This reunion tradition helps us to reinforce our commitment to the profession and reconnects us to our days as medical students. While the alumni relations team grants permission for all of you to unmute, which I think is happening, and join us in reciting our oath, I would like to personally invite you again to join the Alumni Association for our November 12th meeting, which I'll mention again at the end. Dr. Tykocinski, will you lead us in reciting the oath? And everybody will chime in, and we'll see how this goes. This is one of the most meaningful readings I think that we have, and an oath that I take very seriously.
Tell everybody.
So we're going to wait till everybody gets unmuted. So just give us the moment.
They're asking
please.
us to.
I'll be right
Yeah, the Alumni Association will unmute you.
You're unmuted.
Okay, this is our experiment of unmuting.
Good luck.
Okay, all of our medical college alumni, repeat after me. I do solemnly
swear
No
that I will be loyal
to the profession of medicine,
thus to its members and
institutions.
I will lead my life
Practice my art in uprightness and honor.
and I will give respect
Gratitude to those who taught me this art.
to whatsoever
House shall enter.
be
Who does it?
holding myself aloof
Holding
temptation of others to vice. Besides my art, I've cared my patient. Will give no drug, no operation, solicited,
Whoever I shall hear the lodge of my
I shall as my patient, I do
Thank you so much, alumni.
I think that was actually marvelous. I think it was great. I could see everybody's name light up as you were speaking. So thank you all for joining in with this. I think this is really great. You're still unmuted. And
Great.
this is good because I do want to ask for a round of applause in a moment. But I want to thank the award recipients, the student contributors, and alumni board members who are on tonight, many of whom are on, who participated this evening, and to the alumni relations team for putting tonight's program together. We could not have done this without you. Thank you to Dana, and Philly, and Veronica, Roberta, Jeff, and Christina. I just think while we are all unmuted, let's give a big round of applause, virtual or otherwise, for everybody, and for all of you alumni for joining in and taking a chance on Zooming with us. We are so excited that you joined us. And thanks again to everybody, the Alumni Relations Office.
Well, so you
I have a few more things. I invite all of I invite all of our alumni to visit our reunion hub, jefferson.edu/reunion hub. It might be good if everybody mutes perhaps now. That would be great. To continue the celebration with a virtual campus tour, it takes about 10 minutes, so it's great. Links to your yearbook and a discount at the campus store, 20% off, which ends this weekend. The student video we shared earlier, as well as tonight's video, actually, and the necrology and parade of classes. So all of that will be on the Reunion Hub. Please be sure to register to join us for the annual business meeting on November 12th at 7 p.m. with the Dean and the Alumni Board. We will have a really good discussion and some of the things that were brought up tonight and questions that weren't answered. You will get an invitation to join us and to register for that. And again, please save the dates for 2021 Alumni Weekend, October 15th and 16th. We're hoping we get together to celebrate you in person. But if not, we're getting good at this Zoom, so we have a backup plan. Please be sure to reach out to the alumni office or to me, your new president, at any time with your suggestions and thoughts on how we can better serve you and your classmates. Our contact information is in the invitation on the emails and the website, and we can share that with you. And I'm happy for you to connect with the alumni office or connect with me directly. Thank you all once again for joining us this evening, and congratulations on your milestone reunion. Stay safe, be well, and good night.